What's going on, everybody? It is your main man, Big Ivy, talking to town, Mr. DETVCH.com, and this is Meet the Candidate. So, what do you get when you have like the ultimate race in Delaware? Three candidates running for the spot?
No. We only have two now because the incumbent retired.
Oh, so that's...
You didn't know that?
I knew that. I just
well,
wanted
okay.
to say.
On July 10th, that was the filing deadline. So that was when the landscape of the race became official, right? And the night before that, Senator Robert Marshall, who served for about 40 years in the seat, announced that he was not going to seek re-election. So then there were two.
So I feel like I need to announce this, number one, like the battle royal. You know what I mean?
I don't know about that.
Or the Rocky theme song needs to come out. But no, we're going to leave that alone. I just want you to meet.
I'm a lover, not a fighter.
I just want you to meet Tizzy, running for Senate, and this is Meet the Candidate. So, special thanks to the Mill Space for allowing, for letting this happen. They sponsored the space for us, an awesome co-working space for individuals. If you see it, you got it?
I turn my mug around.
You got it? Boom. They who's letting us use this space for these episodes. So again, shout out to Rob Herrera and the Mill Space. Check it out if you need space at themillspace.com. Go check it out. But anyway, so back to the main feature. Tizzy.
Yes, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so glad we finally got to do this. I've been wanting to do this for a long time.
I know. Now I met you maybe about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
When I was doing an episode about On Pace.
Yes, that's right. You
remember?
came by during one of my sessions.
And you thought I was crazy.
I was like, who is this guy? No. It was cool.
Yeah, and so you're in with Pace. What I found out about Tizzy is like you are highly into the community, you know?
I am, yeah. I mean, so PACE stands for Parent Advocacy Council for Education. Mm-hmm. It's not a standalone organization. It is an initiative of the Christina Cultural Arts Center, which is all about the community and has been a pillar of the community for over 70 years.
Wow.
Right? Started out, you know, on the east side in the church, and then, ended up on Market Street in the 90s.
That was the church right on Church Street, right?
Mm-hmm. I think, yeah.
Yeah, right on Church Street. Shout out to Christina Cultural Arts, man. I love them and love what they're doing.
We love Christina. So, our work has evolved. Obviously, the focus is on, cultural teaching and all the arts and things like that. But then, in the late 90s, Christina was a big part of the establishment of Kaumba Academy Charter School. Right. So Christina founded that school through Ray and Jones Avery. And so I think, it was a response to the needs of the community that we were serving through arts instruction. Right. And so I think what happened over time is that the understanding that our community needed the school, but also needed other kinds of supports to be able to navigate the system. Even when we were able to create a new school, there's still a context that policy creates for the flourishing of that school, for the flourishing of our students. Right. So I believe that is where Ray and Lynn Howard were coming from when they conceived of the Parent Advocacy Council for Education. And parent education and parent empowerment, they didn't invent it, obviously. There's been all kinds of things. That's what Title I and policy and education is for. Right. But they were trying to figure out how can we harness that for our community. And I was very fortunate. I had worked with Ray in a lot of different ways in the past, and I was coming out of graduate school. Just had gotten my master's in urban affairs and public policy at UD, and wanted to get back into community nonprofit work, and she had this opportunity. She was looking for someone to dig in and work with community members and help parents better navigate the school system, and that was exactly where I was. Where
it was just an awesome fit.
Yeah, I mean, I was a PTA mom that had kind of like run amok, right? And and I wanted to. I think what I found with the schools that I was working with is that, when you see a school that is troubled, oftentimes it has so much to do with the way the families, the parents, the communities. To how much they understand what they have a right to expect in the school, and then how to demand it. Right. So that's what PACE is really about. It's about helping our community understand what we deserve in our public schools and all public systems, really, and then develop the skills and the sort of the unity, right? Like you need fellowship to walk that walk, because it takes so long to change even really small things sometimes. So. But the more people you get together to do it, the more possible it is, the faster it can happen. So for me, it was really important to devote myself to that, even though it was a change in career. I'd been working as a media producer for a decade before I made that switch.
And
yes.
and I heard through a grapevine,
Okay.
you know, that you used to work at Nickelodeon.
I did. And that was like, it feels like a lifetime ago. So I went to college in New York City, and I went to NYU, and I was very, in some ways I almost didn't, I wanted to go to college, but I really wanted to like go right to work. And I had this dream that I was going to be this like children's media director, producer, or whatever. And so I was very lucky. As a freshman in college, I got a gig at Nickelodeon, and I stayed there for about a year. It was awesome.
What year was that? Because I was in. I think a lot of my audience still are Nickelodeon fans.
Are you okay? So they're like our age. They're not babies,
age, right? Because
okay,
we're talking about you can't do that on TV.
Oh yes.
Were you there then?
Oh, of course. No. I was watching.
We was like,
but I wasn't there. No, I'll date myself. So I was there. I was working in the development office, which was like near the executive offices, and we used to have to deliver tapes and make dubs of tapes and things like that. I was there when SpongeBob was being like
created,
optioned.
Oh, get out!
So I remember like the executive like in his office laughing his butt off watching this, and everyone was like, "What? It's a sponge? Like what is that?" And of course, it's become. So that was probably like '99.
Oh wow!
I'm old.
So
I'm about to turn 39. So
she said, "Oh, I feel bad now." I'm like, "Geez." So you being involved in the community is nothing new.
No.
Is it something that that's in your bloodline?
Well, yes.
You feel like that's a good segue to like
Thank
who your father is.
Thank you for that. So yes, I mean, both of my parents have inspired me in that way, and they were both very different in the way they approached it. So my father was Norman Lockman.
Right.
He passed away in 2005.
Rest in peace.
Thank you. He was, known as a journalist. He ran the editorial page a little bit, but mostly he wrote opinion pieces for many, many years. And so he was kind of a public figure, and he's just a brilliant man, and I was very lucky to have him as my father.
Awesome.
And so he was very active and very outspoken about all different kinds of political and civic things. So we grew up in a house where we talked about stuff like that all the time. It was just natural, right? And then my mom definitely had a quieter approach to it, but she was the one who was
I thought you were going to say like a Black Panther approach to it. Like burn it down.
She missed all the hippie stuff and things like that. She was much more chill, but she was always doing like League of Women Voters and like parent home and school stuff. So I was getting those different examples. So like my dad would take us to these dinners and things. We would meet politicians and stuff like that, and I remember him being really involved on some of the community stuff. Like he mentored, so I remember riding along and being a little jealous, watching him like pick up his mentee. I think it was over on the east side. It was so long ago, but sort of like, who's this kid? But
wait a minute. So you're born and raised on the east side?
No. That was where his mentee was. Okay. I was raised on the west side, 9th and Franklin. I still live in the same house I grew up in.
Get out.
But my dad was. I remember him being involved in like the Million Man March. Do you remember that?
Yes.
That was a long time ago.
Oh my
gosh. We need to do another one. I mean, I can't take responsibility for that.
We might need to.
I'm not trying to get into a space that I don't belong.
No, I think we need to have like a humanitarian march, like we did for the We Are Love thing.
Yes.
I think we need it, and that's what
United.
DTV,
And that's my campaign slogan or hashtag. It's United We Rise.
So let me ask you, why are you running for Senate?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, it's not something I really thought that I would do, but like you said, I was raised in a house where like civic responsibility was really important. We really cared about like public schools and our neighborhood and things like that. So I just grew up with that. And then when I moved back to Delaware, which was when I was a young mom, when I was pregnant with my daughter in 2003, right before she was born, I just started getting involved in all these different things. I was working as a producer, but I was involved in the schools. I was seeing things that really disturbed me that I wanted to change, and it snowballed. So, fast forward a decade, and I got my policy degree, and I'm doing this grassroots community organizing work at Christina. And when 2016 happens, and it kind of feels like the country's blowing up, and we're so divided, and everything feels like we're going in the wrong direction. It's just been a scary time. So I think like a lot of people, my first instinct was to kind of like hide or look for other options. And I thought, you know what? No, my family has been in this country for hundreds of years and believe in this grand like democratic experiment and that it can work,
Hey, so
and hi, and wanted to be part of I don't want to be too grandiose about it, like saving it, but just wanted to be a part of making it work.
Right.
So I think for me, looking at my skills that I've developed over the last 10, 15 years, looking at the network that I've built of people who are doing things and trying to make things happen, and knowing that in this moment in our political history that like everybody kind of needs to take a step forward from where they were.
Right.
Taking a step forward from my work as an advocate, as a policy researcher, things like that, and wanting to be an example in a way for the community members that I work with. And I'm always telling them, like, you can run for something, you can do this, you can do that. I thought, well, maybe instead of hiding behind the curtain all the time, which is where I'm the most comfortable, maybe the right thing for me to do is to listen to my friends who are encouraging me to step up and take that step forward. And
because I was surprised.
Politics,
I'm not even gonna lie.
that I ran for office?
Yeah,
I was too.
I was like, this is how I was. I was like,
Did she?
Sis, what?
Well, why is that?
Because, like you said, you see public servants, right? And then you see politicians, right? And there's a fine line that comes between both of them. And I just didn't see you as a politician, but I see you as a public servant.
Well, thank you. I hope that is true, and I hope that continues to be. I mean, I know there's a role for politics and that politician role, and that's something I really took very seriously and considered. I almost didn't make that choice because I thought, I don't know if I can do the politician thing. I still don't think I'm really that great at it, but I'm learning. But to me, that piece of it, it's I don't know, maybe it's a three-legged stool, right? I think that's an important piece of it. And then there's the piece of where you're doing that grassroots engagement with your community and empowering your community and building them up. And then you have the piece where you're engaging with legislation, building relationships with legislators, passing law and passing the budget and allocating resources. I think I'm really strong in two of those. And I think being a politician part, I think I can learn that. I can do that. I like people. I love talking to people. Figuring out how to sort of do all that more presentational stuff.
You'll figure it out.
I'll figure it out. But I feel like the community-based work and the policy work, that's the core of what it means to be a legislator. And I feel very confident in my abilities to handle that. And I also have a very thick skin. I'm a lot tougher than I look, I guess I would say.
From the west side.
I mean, I'm in a cool spring neighborhood.
Right.
But let's not be, I mean, I'm much tougher, I think, than people probably think I am. I mean, I'm a single mom. You really can't be a single mom for 15 years and not,
grab a tough skin.
Get a thick skin and just learn how to make things happen and not worry about the little stuff. So in that sense, I was able to set aside any fears I had about politics and how to be a politician the way that we've gotten used to politicians being. Because I think for me, just as a voter and as a citizen, that piece of it does not seem to be as important to getting what we need done for people. It doesn't seem like it's always paid off for our community, right?
And you see, like in politics, that the less fortunate are left behind.
Absolutely, repeatedly. That's part of my stump speech, over and over and over again.
From jobs to voting to even education.
Quality schools, absolutely. That's where it starts, right?
So did you, and I know you did hear about it, but when I heard about it, I was kind of distraught. Now, forget the word distraught. I was pissed, okay?
Yep.
They're closing Stubbs.
Sure.
They're closing
Bancroft. So it's not all a done deal.
Okay.
So we all saw the article in the newspaper, and we all showed up at Stubbs that night, right, to just rise up around it. But so I've been, I don't want to say involved, but I've known about it. I probably knew about it a little bit before it became public. And so there's a process that they're undergoing to figure out whether they're going to do this whole restructuring the schools.
But they can't close that. Those are.
My reaction when I first heard about it was, kind of where did this design idea come from? To what extent was the community involved in making this decision? So I think, change happens, change is necessary. I'm not I don't want to be that person who's like, we can never change anything ever. That's not realistic. However, I think what I keep seeing over and over again, and this is a prime example of that, is that vulnerable communities in particular don't get any say in that change as if they don't matter. And to me, it's unacceptable. I live in a neighborhood that's fairly stable. I know when they want to redesign a park, they walk us through that process step by step, charts, pictures, would you want to
Everything.
slide here? You know,
Yeah.
it's very respectful. And I don't understand why we struggle with delivering that level of engagement to every community. So with the Christina schools, obviously I think it's a terrible idea to consolidate, the 5 schools down to really 2.5.
To Bayard and where else?
So Bayard would become a 1 through 8 school, and Bancroft would become a 1 through 8 school. Stubbs would become a pre-kindergarten program,
Okay.
and have some family services. I mean, these aren't, that in particular, I think is not a terrible idea.
Right.
And then Pulaski and Albert Palmer would shut down or become available for other kinds of use. So it's not even that the ideas in there are not viable ideas. I think what disturbs me is that the community didn't get to make them or say,
Right.
be presented with the situation of, we can't afford to operate 5 buildings.
Right.
Let's talk about what we want, what we need, and how we can remake that in the image that the community desires.
Yeah.
And we really struggle with that in the school system, and that's something that I always push on through PACE and and through the Wilmington Education Improvement Commission and other venues. And that's just really important to me. I do have grave concerns in particular, and I've heard many other community members say this, about having a 1 through 8 or a K through 8 school of students with such high needs, because
Right.
these are already schools with students with the highest needs in the city of Wilmington.
Yeah.
And it feels like we're warehousing students that other schools or don't want to take on the challenge of educating. And I think that the biggest failure in our school system is our inability to confront that and solve that problem. Like, how do we make sure that we're giving every student what they need, and warehousing high need students?
She said warehousing.
Well, that's what it is.
Warehousing
is
students.
not
You know
right.
what I mean?
That's not gonna do it. I mean, I've read research on that. I've looked at options. I know we have some successful K through 8 schools. They do not have 100% poverty.
Right.
And we continue to try to make that work with our Black and brown students, and it's not fair and it's not right.
I think we need some I Promise schools around here.
Oh,
You know what
tell
I mean?
me more.
But LeBron James, what he did, his school.
Yeah.
Giving parents free GED training, job placement.
Right, you got
and all
to the whole family.
It's the whole community.
Well, and I think that's
right.
part of this idea. I don't want to, I'm not just trying to beat
Well, who
up
do I
on.
need to talk to see what this damn idea is about? Because these are the
Honestly,
areas.
and I hope he won't get mad at me, but Darrell Green, do you know Darrell?
No, Darrell, if you're watching this, I'm gonna need you to hit me below because we need to talk.
He's the director of the Office of Innovation and Improvement for the Department of Education. He works in town. He's an outstanding
Darrell
person.
probably over there like, damn,
I know.
Tizzy.
No, but he's been a teacher and an administrator in Wilmington schools.
Awesome.
He was a top level, I think, assistant superintendent in Brandywine.
Okay.
He knows his stuff. He's amazing. He's legit. He is your man to talk to. Hopefully, actually, we'll have some community meetings. I've been doing some work through PACE and WEIC and even West, the Wilmington Education Strategy think tank that I work on with Ray Jones Avery and Jay Street and Shannon Griffin and some others. We've been talking about how do we get more
heavy hitters on that
yes,
list.
and Namdi's involved as well. We've been doing it for years, just trying to figure out how do we create a strategy to strengthen education for those who have been consistently left behind. And so
She said consistency left.
yeah, so we wanted to find out a way to create a better community engagement plan around whatever's going to happen with the Christina schools. Something is going to happen.
Yeah.
Something big is going to happen.
Yeah.
They've tried to have something big happen, like on like a 3 to 5 year cycle for the past, 15 or 20 years.
I was gonna say 20 years.
Right. Well, every time there's some big new plan, and then the community gets upset, and then the can gets kicked down the road for another 5 years.
Yeah.
And unfortunately,
Sounds
those
like
schools.
Newcastle. Sounds like they did the corridor down
Yeah.
there. But anyway, I'm not
But
gonna.
yeah, I mean, unfortunately, those schools are struggling, and there are students there who are continuing to not do well,
Right.
and that is also not acceptable. So
Right.
we've kind of got these two unacceptable things. We need to get in there as
Right.
a community and engage and find a plan that we can all come together on and move forward with.
Right.
And so, while I criticize this current plan and the way that it's been rolled out, I think where I am as a person and as a legislator will probably be the same way. It's like, how do we move forward now?
Yeah.
How do we make something good out of this bad history, which is basically that's America now.
That's America. Welcome to America. So Tizzy, you so about a couple weeks ago, I was sitting at home doing this, and I see a bunch of high-powered people giving you endorsements.
Well, we all have our network.
See how modest she sounded?
Diplomatic.
They were diplomatic. Like, so who all gave you
Oh boy!
And they wrote
individual.
some amazing things about you.
I was really honored. So a few of the endorsements I've gotten from individuals. So it sort of kicked off with Senator Margaret Rose Henry. I mean, nothing against all of the other wonderful people who I love who have given me endorsements, but that was like peeking out of the gate.
That was like Oprah. That was like Oprah
exactly.
saying, "Yo, bam."
I mean, I didn't even know that post was coming that day.
Wow.
So
and so she started the whole.
Well, no, I mean, we all have our conversations.
Yeah, but I'm saying what she did was she wrote it, and the next thing you know, Tony Allen wrote his.
Felt
and
inspired.
Then,
Tony did his. He felt empowered to do it as well. Several other legislators have endorsed me. If you're familiar with Representative Paul Baumbach, he's in the Newark area. Kim Williams and I have worked together on education stuff when I had my daughter going into kindergarten. She was sort of rising up in her power as a parent advocate. So I watched a lot of what she did and learned from her going through the school board and to rep. And Brian Townsend has also
shout out to Brian Townsend. Love that dude.
Yes, I know he's a good guy, right? I mean, he really had a busy, tough session this year with all the gun control work he's been doing. So we're there for you, Brian. And then. I hope I'm not forgetting anybody. Well, Rashima Dixon has come out as well recently.
Shout out to her.
And so a number of wonderful people. Kevin Kelly, who's not currently an elected official, but has been in many ways for so long. He's like
fighting for the streets, in the streets.
You know, I don't know where he gets the energy to be out there the way he is all the time. He's just always in the mix and playing the sports and doing the things. And everybody knows him. And everybody loves him.
From white people to black people to brown people to all people know Kevin.
When I'm out on doors, which we have been for 10 months, it's hard to believe. It's like
it's almost here.
It's like having a baby. It's people who don't even live in a district that he's ever represented will say Kevin Kelly's the only elected official who's ever done anything for me.
Wow.
So I think Tony obviously is not an elected official, but many of these elected officials who have given me their support are really, I hope people can see that these are the type of people that I really aspire to emulate. They work hard. They have integrity. They're about the people. They're about their communities, their constituents. And Jay Street Senior, I forgot to mention. Jay also came out. Oh my goodness!
He'd have burnt this place down. You forgot
because he's so special. And he came out. I think he's the third one out. He's amazing, and he's a great example of that, right? He does the right thing. It may not be the popular thing. May not be the politically.
But the right thing.
Clever. I mean, well, I think he is very politically clever, but he doesn't go along to get along. He does the right thing for the people that he's representing and for the vulnerable populations. And a lot of those folks, I think, are like that. They're just really, in it for the right reasons and in it to get the work done. And so I admire them all immensely, and I hope I can be, like all of them in different ways.
Nice.
So
nice. So we're just about out of time.
Oh my goodness!
Is there anything that we forgot? And I got one thing for you.
Yeah. What do you want to know?
Favorite song?
My favorite song of all time?
All time.
Oh, that's really hard.
Because right now your candidacy is definitely depending on this question right here. not anything else that I asked you, but this right here.
Oh my God, that is the hardest question I've ever been asked in my entire life.
Right, we ask hard questions around here.
Go back to my Spotify playlist and think about that a little bit.
I thought you were going to say iPod. I was
my number one.
Not.
No, Spotify. I'm a little modern.
Okay.
Is that not the thing?
No,
is it Tidal?
No, Spotify. I got Spotify. We good.
It's probably okay. I'm gonna be honest. It's probably something from the '80s. I'm an '80s baby.
Right.
Okay. The first one that came to mind. Oh, what does it say about me? Is probably Raspberry Beret.
I was getting ready to say it better be a Michael Jackson or a Prince song. So I'm gonna let you. Okay.
I know. I can read the room.
Favorite thing you like to do in Wilmington?
Favorite thing I like to do in Wilmington, I mean, I just walk. I just got my driver's license on March 15th for the first time in my entire life at 38. And so I spend a lot of time biking and walking. And I just, I like to walk the city and just see people and places. And I just like being out, which I guess comes in handy when you're campaigning.
Favorite food?
Favorite food? I'm like a French fry obsessive.
Okay.
I'm not going to try to be cool. French fries. I did, yeah.
See, I'm not going to try to be cool. Just
Sorry.
Give me some French fries. So go ahead and give people your website and all that, where they can contact you at.
So, now that if you're not over me at this point for all those answers, please join us. My website is www.lockmanforsenate.org. Forest spelled out, FOR. We are on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter. We're not cool enough for Snapchat. And you can find us in all those places. There's a campaign phone number. You can also just show up and visit us, because last Sunday we opened our campaign headquarters for the final month. Thank you.
Congrats.
It was felt like a big deal.
Yeah.
And we're going to be in there just doing all the work. And so that is at 7th and Orange, 109 West 7th Street in the community. We are open 10 to 8 on weekdays, 10 to 4 on weekends, because we got to be out, a little bit more in the evenings, knocking doors and events. But anyone's welcome to stop by and help out, or just come and ask a question. I can't say I'm always going to be there between those hours.
Right.
My schedule's a little packed, but you can talk to one of our team and find out a time where you can come and talk to me personally.
Nice. Well, thanks for coming, Tizzy.
Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate it.
I hope that help people get to know me a little
Shoot,
bit
I hope
better.
it helped my Instagram and IG followers go up. It's your main man, Big I, the talk of the town, Mr. DETV, Delaware TV, Delaware only TV network that's sharing with you all type of good news, positive news, great news, and amazing people like this chick right here.
Thank you. Thank you for all your work.
Thank you.
Keep it up.
Make sure you follow us at detvch.com for more positive stuff and positive stories around this wonderful city and state that we live in. It is your main man, Big I, the talk of the town. I'll see you on the other side.
Bye.